Good day everybody, welcome to our basic technology class, where today we will be treating the topic woodwork and tools, and our instructor for today is Adeniran Umar Olawale. First thing first, the content of today's topic. In today's class we will be looking at three main things: definition of woodwork and tools, classes of woodwork and tools, and lastly the care of woodwork and tools. Objective of today's class. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to define woodwork and tools, state the classes of woodwork and tools, and lastly, mention the care of woodwork and tools. With this said, we need to look at the concept of woodwork and tools to understand better what we are talking about. But before we can define woodwork and tools, we have to look at the constituent parts of this concept, which are woodwork and hand tools. What is woodwork? Woodwork refers to the production of items from wood, meaning any item that is produced from wood is called woodwork. And the other component is the hand tool. Hand tools are tools which are operated with the use of hand, but not electricity. This means that any item or any tool you use your hand to operate is called hand tool. With this in mind, we now define woodwork hand tools as tools used in woodwork which are operated manually. Manually means with the hand. With this said, woodwork hand tools are so many, but in line with this topic, we group them into 6 basic groups, which are measuring tools, setting and marking out tools, driving tools, boring tools, holding tools, and lastly, cutting tools. Now, we will start to look at these tools one after the other. The first of which is measuring tools. Measuring tools are tools used in taking measurements, and they include the metric rule, which can be made of wood, metal, plastic, or coiled tape. The second one is the protractor, which is used in measuring angles, the calipers for measuring the internal and external dimension of objects, and lastly the dividers. The second type of tool we'll be looking at is the setting and marking out tools. Setting and marking out tools are used for marking measurements you've taken with your measuring tools. These include tri-square, which looks like the letter L. It is used for checking the squareness of edges and marking out straight lines that are from right angle. The sliding bevel. These are used for marking out or checking angles that are other than 45 degrees. The compasses, trammel, and lastly marking gauge. As you can see, the first picture that pops up is the sliding bevel, and this is the compass. The third tool we'll be looking at are the driving tools. These tools are used to drive in nails or screws into wood. These include the hammer, as you can see on the right side of the picture, screwdriver on the left, the punch, and the mallet. You should know that we have so many types of hammer, such as the straight pen hammer, cross pen hammer, planishing hammer, and the likes. Also, we have examples of screwdrivers, which includes flat screwdriver, start screwdriver, offset, and the likes. Also, we have so many types of punches and mallets. The next tool we'll be talking about are the holding tools. The holding tools, from the name, are used to hold things together. They include vices. This is an example of a vice, which is called the workbench vice. Also, we have the clamps. Clamps come in different shapes and in different types. This is a sash clamp and it is used to hold wood tightly together when assembling or gluing. Also, this is another type of a clamp and it is called the G clamp because it looks like letter G. Lastly, we have the pliers. We have the example of pliers, the cutting plier and the likes. The next type of tool we're talking about are the boring tools. They are used for making holes in woods. They include the ratchet brace, the ratchet, the wheel brace, and the gimlet. This picture is an example of the ratchet brace. It has 4 main parts: the head, the ratchet, the chunk, and the opening, whereby the item for boring will be used. And next we have the cutting tools. They are used for cutting. They include saws, planes, chisels. We should know that our saws, planes, and chisels, they come in different types. We have example of our saw: cross saw, tenor saw, bow saw, dover saw, and etc. Our planes include jack plane, smoothing plane, foreplane, trim plane, and the likes. Also, our chisel, we have the flat chisel, the cross-cut chisel, the round nose chisel, and etc. Now we'll be looking at the care of our woodwork hand tools. How do we care for our woodwork hand tools? We can care for our woodwork hand tools by ensuring that we always use the right tool for the required job. Don't use a wrong tool for any job because you will not have a very good outcome. After using the tools, ensure that you clean the tools immediately after use and store them well. Next thing is, when you're storing, you should store them in an orderly manner for easier location and pick up when needed. Meaning that the tools that you are to hang them, the ones that you are to put on the floor, put them and make sure that they are in orderly manner. Next is that you should store tools away from pathways to avoid obstruction and or accident. Meaning that don't put saws where they might injure anyone. Don't put your screws, your screwdriver and the likes anywhere. Lastly, never store tools in damp areas to avoid spoilage. Make sure that your store is always clean and also dry, not wet. Whenever you have liquid or fluid on the floor or around you, make sure that you clean them up. With all this said, we will now go back to the summary of what we have done today. Remember that we said we have 3 objectives for today's class: the definition of woodwork hand tools, and it means tools that are used in woodwork operated manually. We talked about the examples of woodwork hand tools, that we have 6 classes of them: the measuring tools, the setting tools, the driving tools, holding tools, boring tools, and lastly the cutting tools. And the last of our objective was to look at the care of our woodwork hand tools, where I said we should always use the right tool for the required job, clean tools immediately after use and store well, store tools in orderly manner for easier location and pickup, store tools away from pathway to avoid obstruction and or accident, and never store tools in damp areas to avoid spoilage. With this, we have come to the end of the class, but I will be giving you assignment to check your ability as regards your understanding of this class. First of which is, what are woodwork hand tools? Mention the types of woodwork hand tools and their respective examples. And lastly, list 3 ways of caring for woodwork hand tools. With this, we have come to the end of the class, and I say thank you.